I arrived in January 1989, and everything was new and exciting. I'm standing at the train station in downtown Taipei, and my friend says, well, get a taxi. And there had to be about 2 million motorcycles going by.
Wow.
Right at dusk, and it was just chaos. And I flagged down a taxi, and I say to the guy, Zhongshan Beilu, and he goes, Tiabo, Tiabo, and he goes off. Surrounded by motorcycles, buzzing like everywhere. And it's like, holy smokes, this country is insane. This is insane. And I just fell in love with it right away.
Cole Fogel here, and today I am with, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Bob.
Where are you from originally?
I'm from Canada.
Okay, what part of Canada?
All over. I grew up moving every 4 years.
Oh.
I guess I consider myself a West Coaster, BC.
Oh, cool.
I was born in Kitimat.
I've actually heard of it.
It's up north. Kitimat is a word that means land of the snow.
Oh, well, Canada is definitely a land of the snow. So you're already a traveler before you even made your way here.
I like to say that I never lived in the same house more than 4 years until I bought my first house in Taichung.
Wow.
And I lived there 6 years.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I grew up in Ontario and Newfoundland and Ontario and in BC and back and forth a few times.
Where are your parents? Where were they from?
Well, my dad's from Scotland and my mother is from BC.
My grandfather was from Scotland.
He immigrated to Canada in 1952. He was in the Merchant Marines. And his brother was too, and his brother was 4 years older than him. My dad was sailing the Orient line. So he was coming into China and Singapore and Hong Kong and back to England. And that was his route. And his brother was sailing a different route to the west coast of Canada. And his brother said, you should leave the Marine and move to Vancouver. So my dad sailed across to Halifax, got on a train, and went straight across Canada and ended up in Vancouver, 1952.
Where he met your mother.
Right. So then, essentially, we moved every 4 years just because of his job. He worked for Alcan, so I got to see all of Canada.
Where was the most interesting or best part of Canada that you lived? Would you say it was the West Coast, or? Yeah.
British Columbia is beautiful.
It really is, yeah.
It's the nicest part of Canada.
It's breathtaking, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what was the first place that you explored outside of Canada? Can you remember, and how old were you?
I was a university student, and I was a poor university student in every way. And my last year in Ottawa, which is a really, really cold city, I went through the winter without any gloves and with running shoes. And I said, I just got to graduate so I can leave this country. So I graduated. I worked as a tree planter over the summer, and I made enough money to leave Canada and basically travel through Europe and the Middle East.
The Middle East?
Yeah, worked on a kibbutz in Israel, picking avocados. And by the way, the avocados in Israel and in Canada are like as big as your hand.
Yeah.
The avocados in Taiwan are as big as your head.
It's interesting, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. I can't believe how big they are. So I went to India and Bangladesh and Nepal and then Southeast Asia.
Wow. And
then I ran out of money again, so I went to Australia and worked there for 6 months. I had to leave Australia because my visa was expiring, and I flew to the Philippines. And I got hung up there for a few weeks during Christmas and New Year. And then I arrived in Taiwan in January the 6th, 1989.
Okay, so you from the Philippines, you came to Taiwan.
Right.
Taoyuan Airport?
Yep. I had a friend in Taipei who invited me to Taiwan, and he said, so what you do is when you get out of the airport, take the bus to the train station, the old train station, and then call me. So I did that.
This was a Taiwanese fellow?
No, he's a roommate from university.
Oh, sorry, a roommate from university, okay.
Yeah. Got off the plane mid-afternoon and got into Taipei just as the sun's setting, and experienced the chaos of 1989 in front of the train station in Taipei. And there had to be about 2 million motorcycles going by.
Wow.
Right at dusk, and it was just chaos.
January, okay, so it was probably cool?
Yep, it was cold after the Philippines and Australia. And I was ill prepared because at that point I'd been traveling for about 4 years and I only had carry-on luggage.
Wow.
So I had like 3 t-shirts and one pair of pants and a couple of pairs of shorts. So I had to buy a sweater right away. I'm standing at the train station in downtown Taipei, and my friend says, well, get a taxi. And I said, well, do they speak English? He says, no. He said, write this down phonetically. I said, oh, okay, here we go.
Oh,
so
Pinyin.
Right, the guy didn't know any Chinese. So,
yeah.
So he says, Zhongshan Lu, Liu Duan, McDonald's. So I wrote it all down and I flagged down a taxi, and I say to the guy, Zhongshan Lu, Liu Duan, McDonald's. And he goes, and he goes off. Okay, I didn't get that.
He wouldn't take you?
No. And this happened again. The second time, the same thing. Zhongshan, no. But the third guy got it. He goes, oh yeah, you know. So I get in the back, and we're driving up Zhongshan Lu in a taxi, surrounded by motorcycles, buzzing like everywhere. And it's like, holy smokes, this country is insane.
Yeah,
like this is insane. And I just fell in love with it right away.
Oh man, 1989.
Everything was different in Taiwan. Taiwan, if you know the history, in 1987, I think it was, martial law ended. In 1988, the president died. I arrived in January 1989, and everything was new and exciting, and most importantly, opening up.
Yeah.
Because Taiwan was essentially closed for 40 years.
Wow.
So suddenly, like, everything is opening up.
You made your way eventually after the third taxi to the McDonald's.
Yep.
Is that where your friend was waiting for you?
Yep, that was up in Tianmu. He had a place in Tianmu.
Okay.
He was working at the American school as a gym teacher.
Cool.
And I moved into his tatami room for a few months, and found work as a English teacher.
Cool.
Yeah, bought a motorcycle.
Was it a scooter or a motorcycle?
It was a motorcycle. It was a Kawasaki 125. I got this job working for a school that had maybe 16 or 20 branches around town.
Oh.
And I was the only English teacher. So they would say, okay, we want you to go to Sanchong on Wednesday, and we want you to go to Banqiao on Thursday. So I used to ride this motorcycle, and I knew no Chinese and no direction sense, and I would get hopelessly lost. And I'd go into these places and teach for 3 hours and then try to find my way back to Tianmu. It was very stressful, but getting back would be dark. I had a map. I bought it at Cave's bookstore, and it was a map of Taipei.
Not Google Map, guys. This is before smartphones.
It was a map of Taipei, and it was in English. And one time I got so lost, I was on the other side of Banqiao, near Tuchen, and I'm supposed to be in Tianmu, like the complete opposite direction.
Okay.
And I got so lost, I go into a 7-Eleven, and I put my map out on the counter, and I say to the girl, "What's Ainali? Where am I?"
Yeah.
And the Taiwanese, in those days, maybe today too, they don't understand maps, especially maps that are in English. She looks at the map and she's going like, "Wow, this is a map of Taipei, and it's in English."
You were like intriguing her with this map.
Eventually, we figured out where I was, and I got home at 2 in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when I arrived, it was exactly the same. Like I had a map as well, and I drove around getting lost.
Yeah.
But my beginnings in Taiwan were Taichung. So it was a little bit easier because Taichung is a smaller city.
Yeah.
It's a little bit harder to get as lost. Taipei is huge.
Yeah.
Like it would be super easy to get lost there. Is this before the MRT?
Yeah. Taipei was a mess because it was all under construction. And there's no high-speed rail. So coming to Kaohsiung
I remember the high
was
speed,
like a 6 or 8 hour journey.
It was like a Ruwang bus.
Yeah.
They
so-
give you like a chrysanthemum tea box.
I think
Juice
so,
box,
yeah.
remember
That's
those? Yeah?
Or what's that terrible drink? Asparagus drink.
Yeah, they always had the asparagus drink, yeah.
Terrible.
So weird, right?
Yeah, and it's so long. They had all the tolls.
Yeah,
so you have
yeah,
to stop
yeah,
at
yeah.
the toll and slow down and speed up again.
And those really old curtains.
Yeah, the curtains.
Like-
And people used to smoke too on the bus.
Oh yeah, back when you came. Yeah, right. Yeah. All right, so that was 1989. How long were you here before I guess you left again?
I was only here for about 10 months and then left again and came back in January 1992.
Did you go back to Canada
Yes.
at that point?
I'd been away for a long time,
Yeah.
and it was time to go home.
Okay, so in 92,
Yep.
you came back to Taiwan.
Yep.
And then how long were you here from that point?
3 years in Taipei and 6 years in Taichung.
What brought you to Taichung? Like, why did you
I wanted
leave?
to study Mandarin at Fengjia University.
Oh, okay, yeah. Fengjia, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Fengjia.
Me too.
That's a chaotic area.
Yeah.
I lived in that area for a short time.
Me too.
Okay, so you were so you moved there to study Chinese.
Yeah, I got married, and essentially we wanted to get out of Taipei.
Where did you meet your wife? In Taipei, obviously?
I met my wife in Taipei in 1989. We were Bushiban teachers together.
Ah, I've heard a lot of romances like this. Okay.
She was the reason I left Taiwan. She was leaving Taiwan to study in the States. So she did 2 years master's program, and I went back to Canada. And
Where in the States was she?
Wisconsin.
You got married in Canada?
No, we got married here.
Oh, you got married here. Did you have a traditional wedding?
Yeah, with the round tables and all that. Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
And you go around doing the tea toast at each table or whatever.
Yeah, I remember doing that.
And there was a bunch of seafood probably, I
Yep.
would imagine.
Yeah, a lot of great food.
Did any of your family come from
My
Canada?
my mother came.
Cool.
And my mother came. But my last couple of years in Taiwan, I worked for an advertising company in Taipei.
Ah,
A big international firm called
Cool.
Ogilvy and Mather, Aomei Guangao.
okay.
And that was awesome. We had a staff of about 350 people, and I was the go-to foreigner for all English communication. We were big clients like BMW and McDonald's.
Oh, cool.
So we were taking McDonald's ads
Yeah.
in the US
Yeah.
and modifying them for the Chinese market, testing them in Taiwan, and then launching them into China. But the market is different because the aim for McDonald's advertising back then was teenagers.
Of course.
But in Taiwan, it's the old people taking care of the grandchildren that are at McDonald's. So I kept getting questions from the American bosses saying, why are there so many old people and babies in your ads?
Because that's the people that are buying it.
Exactly. I learned so much about advertising and how it works.
The corruption of advertising.
Well, it is corrupt, but it's interesting. I'll give you an example. If you look at people in advertising, and
Yeah.
especially like old people in advertising, but if you're advertising a 55 plus community, the models in that advertising will be 45 to 50. But if you ever actually visit a seniors community, the average age is probably 75 to 85.
70s, 80s.
You're always advertising inspirationally to people who they think they are. So most people actually believe they look and feel 10 years younger than they are.
I mean,
It's-
I feel like I'm still in my 20s.
Me too.
Not after I do a race or a long bike ride, though.
No.
Then I'm reminded of my age. When you have aches and pains, or like, why does my foot hurt today? Why does my knee hurt?
Just wait till you're my age.
Yeah, well, 60s, yeah. Someone told me, like, your 40s are actually the roughest. When you get to the 50s, 60s, your body's already used to it and it kind of balances out, no?
I've heard things like that too. Yep.
Or you've just been in pain for so many years, you just accept the pain? I don't know.
I don't know. I can say that the 40s are the most stressful time of most people's lives because they've got kids in school, they've got jobs, careers they're working on, they got parents that are starting to get old that they have to take care of. So
I'm just,
you can get through the 40s.
Yeah.
It's all gravy after that.
okay, so 2000, is that when you left the job and then,
Yeah, I moved back to Canada because at that time I felt like I'd done everything I could do in Taiwan. I'd been here a long time, and although I enjoyed the advertising world, I knew I could pick it up again in Canada. I was kind of in creating advertising in Taiwan, but in Canada I sold advertising.
does that lead us up to today, career-wise?
I changed careers 18 years ago and became a real estate agent.
In what area? In Ontario? Or
I live in Waterloo.
in Waterloo? Oh, so it's all in Waterloo.
Yeah, Kitchener-Waterloo.
How has Taiwan changed from 1989 till the present time, would you say? Like, how would you describe the change that's occurred?
Well, it's changed a lot. Essentially, when I first arrived in Taiwan, Taiwan was a developing country. And now Taiwan is a developed country. There's three major changes in the 90s. And those were politically, Taiwan opened up and became democratic, like the first elections in 96. Economically, it just boomed. It just like went crazy. The golden time in Taiwan, I was here for it. It was just like growth like crazy.
Booming.
Just booming. And the third thing was pollution. Taiwan is world known now for like the way the garbage is handled and the recycling.
It's pretty cool,
yeah. But in '89, it was not like that yet.
Were there musical garbage trucks in 1989?
I don't remember, but in those days, in my neighborhood, people used to take their garbage, and there's a central place you just throw all your garbage. So you'd have this heap of garbage at 6 o'clock at night, and then the guys would come and pick it up. And there's no environmental controls, so the buses would belch black smoke up and down like the streets.
I think I recall those days too. I mean, even in the late 90s, it was still kind of,
I used to, and it's so hot. You'd be sweating, and you come home and you'd be like blackface, right?
Yeah,
Riding your motorcycle. In those days, there's no helmets, so you didn't have to wear a helmet. So Taiwan really, really improved in so many ways, and yet, it's still got the best aspects of the culture: the food, the people, just everything about it.
Most people, when you ask them, like, what are the top things that you love about Taiwan, the people are always the first or second thing that they will say.
That's right.
What is it about the people?
They're very open. They're very friendly. They'll never give you a hard time. Hospitable, and they're just really, really nice people.
When you first arrived, did you ever have someone, because this has happened to me numerous times, now we have Google Maps, but before that, where they would either give you a lift physically on their vehicle or you would follow them and drive 10, 20 minutes to take you somewhere so you weren't lost? Did you have any situations like that?
I had situations like that, but I think the best example is some friends of mine told me recently that they were standing on the corner in Taipei, and it started to rain, and somebody stopped their car and gave them an umbrella. Said, "Here, have this umbrella," and drove off.
Yeah, I've had people hand me like the disposable raincoats when I was riding my bicycle. They literally walked up and said, "Take this," because it was pouring with rain. Yeah,
they're so nice.
And the food.
I love the food here. You know, there's so many different varieties of food.
Yeah.
The main difference between Western food and Asian food is the amount of flavors and textures. There's so many textures. You go out for breakfast and get a xiaobing youtiao. You've got flakiness, saltiness, sweetness, crunchiness,
everything,
slipperiness.
Yeah.
Like this is in one sandwich.
Yeah.
Every day is a new adventure with food in Taiwan.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah.
And the fruit.
Oh God, the fruit.
And the seasons change as well. Like it's so diverse throughout the year.
Yeah.
Mango season and just the different seasons.
And that's another thing that's changed, because when I first got to Taiwan, they didn't grow strawberries.
Oh, is that a new thing?
Yeah, and they didn't grow avocado.
And now they also grow blueberries.
Really?
That's like a new thing. They started harvesting blueberries.
I thought that was a cold weather. It must be.
That's what I thought, but it's like mountain. Yeah, they were selling them. I don't know, Family Mart or 7-Eleven for a very short time.
Nice.
So it's probably like just like a once a year sort of thing.
Yeah. And I went to the market the other day, and the avocados, they're so big. They're
huge.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah.
And it's like, wow. And I told my wife, and she said, no, they must be imported. And I said, no.
No, I know. They've grown them here for a while, yeah.
So that's how Taiwan has changed. All positive.
Oh, yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, all positive.
How many kids do you have?
2.
Your children never grew up here. They grew up in Canada?
That's right. Actually, that's quite interesting. When we first got to Canada, my oldest daughter went into grade 1, and my youngest went into junior kindergarten.
Wow.
And we had to bring an ESL teacher into the grade 1 class because her English wasn't good enough.
Oh, you mean they were born here?
Yeah, they were born here.
But they went to school there.
Yeah.
Have they been here many times to visit?
No. My youngest was here 10 years ago, and she's coming in next week.
Exciting.
And my oldest was here in 2019 for a couple of months, and her boyfriend are going to cycle around the island
That's
in
exciting.
January, February.
What are your future plans?
Once I retire, I plan, actually once my wife retires, then I'll retire. And our plan then is to essentially live in Asia for 5 months of the year and live in Canada for 7.
Nice.
And Kaohsiung will be our home base.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be here. We'll definitely be able to hang out when you're retired.
Look forward to it.
I mean, hopefully I'll be retired too.
You're too young.
Final thoughts, something you'd like to say to the audience?
I actually did a video last year when I was here. It was called Rules to Live By in Taiwan.
Oh, okay. Can you give me a few of those?
Obey the local traffic customs, which means the yellow light means to speed up, not to stop. Things like that.
I like it.
It's true though. A lot of foreigners get themselves in trouble their first year here because they don't
go with the flow.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah.
Well, thank you, brother, for this chat. I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. And I will see you in the next one.